everyone, and thank you for joining us at the 4th Great Britain Business Cyprus Association. Today I'm incredibly excited about this webinar because it is the first to be organized in 2021. I have the honor to be the moderator on behalf of CX Financia, a tax consulting firm here in Cyprus. Today, during our webinar, we have an exciting topic to discuss, and is no other than the market overview and the new laws for 2021. Our speakers will explain that it is not just Brexit bringing in legal changes. Areas ranging from real estate to copyrights and data protection are also in the highlights. Hopefully, by the end of the webinar, our attendees will better understand how business interactions between Cyprus and UK will be affected, and may also consider whether now it is the right time for businesses in the UK to relocate it in Cyprus. We have today 5 esteemed guests who will be sharing with us their views for the new trends and laws for 2021. They will discuss these challenging areas from their own perspective and lay down their views and opinions. So our speakers for today are Mr. Andreas Kyprianou, member of Cyprus House of Representatives and chairman of the House Standing Committee on Energy, Trade, Industry and Tourism. Mr. Nicolas Karoullas, on behalf of Karma Group Cyprus. Mr. Panicos Loizides, director at Quest Property Consultants UK. Mr. Kounoupias, CEO and founder at Kounoupias IP. And on behalf of Tassos Papadopoulos and Associates LLC, Ms. Alexandra Kokkinou. Mr. Savvas Kyriakides, the founder of Great Britain-Cyprus Association, is also here with us and will speak to everyone in a few minutes. Okay, before getting started on the introductions, I would like to get some administrative issues out of the way. At the end of the presentations, we have allowed for ample time for Q&A answers. So we urge our audience to type their questions in the chat and the Q&A control panel. Our speakers will try to answer them all at the end of the speakers' presentations. Great Britain-Cyprus Business Association members and all attendees of this webinar are eligible to receive copies of the speakers' slides presentations. Please make sure you send us an email to send you all the slides. We will be recording this webinar. We will have this video recording available within the next few days on the Great Britain-Cyprus Business Association website for those interested. So that's all for the administrative issues. Before we start the presentations, please allow me to say a few words about myself. For those who don't know me, I'm Xenia Neophytou. I'm the founder and managing director of CX Financia, a boutique finance and tax consulting firm here in Cyprus. At CX Financia, we work closely with corporations, investors, and high net worth individuals, helping them with their international businesses via Cyprus. My personal experience spans corporate services, company law, international taxation, and financial and regulatory compliance. I am a member of the fund's technical committees of CIFA, the Cyprus Investment Funds Association, and IPAC, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants. I'm also a board member of the Chamber of the Cyprus India Business Association. Both I and CX Financia have been proud members and long-term supporters of Great Britain-Cyprus Association. I have personally known Mr. Savvas Kyriakides for some years now. I have worked with him on previous conferences and presentations he organized. I must say that I admire his commitment to promoting awareness and business growth between the two countries. Both Mr. Kyriakides and I are also committed to this initiative. We believe that businesses in both Great Britain and Cyprus must have a forum to network and help each other grow. Okay, without further delay, I will now call Mr. Savvas Kyriakides, the Great Britain Cyprus Business Association founder, to say a few words. Savvas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Xenia. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. First of all, I would like to welcome our speakers, Mr. Andreas Kyprianou, Mr. Nicolas Karoullas, Mr. Panicos Loizides, Mr. Kounoupias, Ms. Alexandra Kokkinou, and of course you, the moderator, Xenia Neophytou. Our association are organizing this webinar as we are trying to provide the opportunity to businesses in Cyprus and the United Kingdom to come closer, and the networking is one of our main objectives. I would like also to thank all the sponsors, Karma Group, Tassos Papadopoulos and Associates, and CX Financial Limited, because without the sponsors and the support of our members, we couldn't be able to provide this service and opportunity to all the attendees and all the businesses. Finally, I would like to thank all the attendees for joining us today, and I hope you will enjoy this webinar with the valuable speeches of our speakers. Thank you very much. Enjoy your webinar.
Okay, thank you very much, Savvas. Okay, we will now start with the presentations. Our first speaker for today is Mr. Andreas Kyprianou. Unfortunately, due to other commitments, Mr. Kyprianou cannot be here with us today. However, he has sent his recorded presentation and will be showing it to you via video in a while. Allow me first to say a few words about Mr. Kyprianou. Mr. Kyprianou is a member of the House of Representatives and chairman of the House Standing Committee on Energy, Trade, Industry and Tourism. He is also a member of the House Standing Committee on Internal Affairs, on Labour Welfare and Social Insurance. Mr. Kyprianou is also a member of the House Delegation to the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association since February 2020. He has also been member of the House Standing Committee on Development Plans and Public Expenditure Control. Mr. Kyprianou is a civil engineer by profession and studied civil engineering with a specialization in structural design at the University of Texas at Austin, United States of America. He was born in Limassol, Cyprus, and is married to Pavlina Melinioti, and together have 2 sons and 1 daughter. Today, Mr. Kyprianou will speak about the Cyprus economy during the post-COVID period and the opportunities for investors investing in Cyprus. Allow me now to share with you the presentation, the video of Mr. Kyprianou, so you can all see his welcome speech. Thank you.
Dear President of the Great Britain-Cyprus Business Association, dear members, dear speakers and attendees, it is indeed a great pleasure for me to address this webinar, and I wish to all of you the greatest of success. My name is Andreas Kyprianou, and I am 11 years now member of the Cyprus Parliament, elected in Limassol district with the Democratic Rally Party. I am also the president of the Cyprus Parliament Standing Committee for Energy, Industry, Commerce and Tourism. 2020 has been a very difficult year for all of us around the globe, especially for businesses and for business people. The Cyprus government has tried to help all business people and employees to be able to overcome the crisis. Over 1.6 billion euros have been given to help companies and employees, with an additional 1 billion euros for 2021. This has been able to keep the unemployment rate close to 7%, a very good figure under the circumstances, and slow down the negative growth rate and keep it close to 5.5% from the 7% that was initially estimated for 2020. My committee has been trying to be of help to the government and all the members from all different parties and address the issues associated with tourism, energy, industry and commerce. It is very hopeful and encouraging that the energy program of the Cyprus government in the exclusive economic zone of Cyprus will be resumed in the second half of 2021. All the major companies that have been licensed in the Cyprus exclusive economic zone are here. They are ready to continue their contracts and resume their drilling efforts in the second half of this year. That verifies in the most impressive way that Eastern Mediterranean and the Cyprus exclusive economic zone are rich in gas and possibly oil. In the industry sector, it is very encouraging that construction industry kept on doing very well, despite the pandemic and despite the crisis. And the figures shown indicate that only a small percentage of the ongoing project has been slowed down. Tourism was the big issue, as you may all very well understand. We have been able to receive less than 20% of the incoming tourists compared always to the 2019 tourist season. But due to the support of the government and Cyprus being a small and versatile economy, we expect that after the pandemic is slowed down, tourism will resume strongly, as you very well know that Cyprus is a major tourist destination and has all the attractions necessary. Cyprus is able to overcome the crisis, and in a small period of time, because as I said before, it's a small and versatile economy with great geographic location, excellent services, is a member of the European Union, and has people, business people, that know how to overcome crisis. And as you all well know, crisis can produce opportunities. And Cyprus has all the opportunities for foreign investors in the tourist industry, in the energy industry, in the high-tech industry as well, with a lot of attractive prices in the real estate as well. And I believe that a lot of business people will look at Cyprus in due course and invest in Cyprus, as this will have definitely medium and long-term considerable profits. We also have the special sector of the Cyprus traditional products that are very well established around the globe and in the United Kingdom as well. And there is a lot of small industries that are now producing these traditional products and are trying to find customers around the globe. Prices are excellent, quality is superb. So if somebody wants to invest in these traditional products of Cyprus, it will be, I believe, a very, very well thought investment. We also have problems associated with the Brexit. I am sure that this will lead specific companies to relocate. And Cyprus is an excellent country for relocation of businesses, as it provides European Union identity, excellent, as I said before, services, legal services, financial services, etc. This will also be an objective of the Cyprus government to try to relocate businesses that need to be in the European Union so that they can perform their operations better. I'm sure future business relationship with the United Kingdom will be still excellent besides the Brexit. Brexit will bring some difficulties, and I am sure the speakers that will follow, they will address the legal issues associated with the Brexit. What I want to say last in this small introduction is that we are here for you, for all business people. They can address any of their problems or any of their inquiries, and the Cyprus Parliament Standing Committee, I'm also very sure the Ministry as well, will see through the problems or the inquiries and try to resolve them. I again say that Cyprus is a land of opportunity. A lot of things will be very strong after the pandemic. I am very optimistic with the Cyprus economy in the near future, and the business people that will study these opportunities will have specific and generous profits. I want to thank you all. I am very sorry that I cannot be with you because I have specific meetings during this day that the webinar is taking place, but I am at your disposal. The chairman has all my address details and communication details, so don't hesitate, please, to contact me or contact the committee for any inquiry that you may have involving possible investments in Cyprus. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Γεια σας από τη Λεμεσό.
Thank you, Mr. Kyprianou. We thank Mr. Kyprianou for this wonderful welcome message. It is indeed very reassuring and very optimistic to hear from a member of the Parliament this message that Cyprus, despite the pandemic, has all the opportunities to revive across all sectors of the economy. And this is indeed very encouraging. Also, he talked about the Brexit and that Cyprus and UK have excellent relationships, and that the government is by the UK side to address any issues they may have in the future. Okay, that was the first presentation. We now start with the second speaker, Mr. Nicolas Karoullas. He is the CEO of Karma Group. Karma Developer is one of the key players in the Cyprus property industry. Allow me to say a few words about Mr. Karoullas. He has extensive executive level management and substantial real estate industry experience. He holds a degree in business management and is an active member of the Cyprus Building and Land Development Association and the Famagusta Chamber of Commerce. He has been leading Karma Group since 2009 at the age of 23, following the sudden death of his father and founder of Karma. Under Nicolas' proactive management, Karma Group expanded its operations in times of financial crisis, increased its turnover by 50%, and delivered the most significant project in Famagusta region, the mythical Sands Resorts and Spa. As the group CEO, he ensures the development of an effective organizational structure and promotes a positive internal climate. Mr. Karoullas today will talk about the property market overview from the Cyprus perspective and will share with us investment opportunities in 2021. Nicolas, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Xenia, for the introduction. I would like to welcome all our participants today in our webinar and to say a big thank you also to Mr. Savvas for giving us the opportunity to participate at this event. I hope our participants will enjoy it. I will speak about the real estate market in Cyprus by starting with a nice photo of Nisi Beach. Since we are in a lockdown now, you know, you get the vibe of the beach and this. Real estate market and construction is the third biggest industry in Cyprus economy. As you can see from the chart, it's 70% of the market. The real estate sector contributed 3.27 billion euros to Cyprus economy in 2019. Something that shows the importance of the real estate market to Cyprus economy. Following the statistics from the Department of Land and Surveys, this is actually, I'm going a bit back from 2008 to 2019. This is a chart of the contract of sales submitted to the land registry. If you, as you can see from 2013, where it was a banking crisis, Cyprus was on a solid growth path, and before actually the global pandemic of COVID-19, it was approximately in a very healthy growth in a matter of sales. As you can see from 2018 to 2019, it was 12% year-on-year growth in contract of sales. From according to the Department of Land and Surveys during the year 2020, it was, it's bothering me 1 minute, sorry, because I lost my presentation. Okay. So during the year 2020, we have like 7,968 contract of sales recorded, and demonstrating an annual decrease of 23% in comparison with the year of 2019, where the contracts was 10,336. Considering that we have a 5 years period of steady growth, 23% decrease in the contract of sales in a period, a post-COVID period, was not actually a really bad percentage. It's not a pessimistic percentage. And if we consider that Cyprus in springtime 2020 was in a completed lockdown, and springtime is a very crucial period for real estate market in Cyprus, the 23% is something that, in my opinion, is a positive decline of the market. It's not something that shows is very negative. And if we achieve to manage correctly as a country and we give the right incentives, I think in a short period of time, it can even recover and even to go back to the normal rates. After the next slide, we see the map of Cyprus. The reason I would like to show the map of Cyprus is actually because Cyprus is a small island. We have 5 cities, 4 of them located by the sea. Nicosia, which is the capital, is in the center. Cyprus market, even though it is a small market, each city has its own real estate market, and it's affected by different factors. Most important is that prices in Cyprus are determined by how near or far are properties from the coastal line, the seaside, since you are an island, or how close are within the city centers, especially the business cities, which is Limassol and Nicosia. The next slide is showing us the number of sales, contract of sales took place in each city differently. You can see that Nicosia in 2020 has an increase in contract of sales in comparison with the other cities. Some cities, they face some more decrease, a higher decrease in the contract of sales rather than other cities, like, for example, Famagusta and Larnaca, even though they have a decrease in the contract of sales, the percentage is not so high as is in Limassol and Paphos. And actually, the reason of that is because it depends from the supply of the properties in the market that each city has. And definitely, how each city relies on the domestic market. It's remarkable to say how important is the contribution of the local market to the real estate of the country. And again, as I explained before, the local market, it's the one that can support the real estate market and sales in Cyprus, especially during the crisis time. So in 2020, we can see that there is an increase in the domestic sales. However, due to the lack of flights and the pandemic around the world, foreigners couldn't come to the island and to invest in real estate. That's why we have a drop on the contract of sales. For me, it's very important to say that when an investor wants to invest somewhere in Cyprus, it's very crucial to when he starts the investigation, to check properties that they are also affordable and properties that they are attractive to the local market as well. Properties that they are attractive to local market are more sustainable, and they have better chances for potential growth. I would like to add as well that the nationalities that they are mainly investing in Cyprus, except from the local market, are coming from EU, which is the biggest percentage, from Great Britain, of course, from Russia, China, and Middle East. From UK, traditionally, there is a very good relation between the two countries. Most of the Cypriots are English speaking, is our second language. And especially after 2000, we see a lot of British consider Cyprus as an attractive destination for investment, or to buy their holiday home, or to relocate even for retirement purposes. And as Mr. Andreas explained to the previous presentation, Cyprus has all the infrastructure to support foreigners who would like to invest or to come and live in Cyprus. I would like to pass through the next slide in very briefly. I would like to give you just an estimation of the price range per square meters. For example, apartments in city of Limassol starts from 3,000 to 6,000 euros per square meters, and from 7,000 to 10,000 square meters, where is by the sea. The houses that are located more on the inland and they have maybe partially sea view, prices start from 4,500 euros per square meter. In Paphos, the prices for apartments, they start from 2,500 euros to 4,000 euros per square meters. A small house typical 3-bedroom house can vary, usually at the same prices per square meters. And just to give you an indication, a British investor or any foreign investor can buy a house in Cyprus, in Paphos, for up to 350,000 euros, a nice villa of 3-bedroom with maybe some sea view. Prices in Larnaca, they are very close to Paphos property prices. Although in Larnaca, the most attractive real estate market are the small apartments. Larnaca is close to the airports and it attracts a lot of Middle East people who would like to have a small property in Cyprus. Apartments prices start from 1,500 euros per square meters. In the Famagusta region at the East Coast, is the area that actually attracts a lot of tourists because it has beautiful beaches and is one of the is the main actually tourist destination of Cyprus. Apartment prices, they start from 1,800 euros per square meters and they can reach 5,000 when it's coming to the seafront ones. Villas, they start from 2,500 and they can reach 8,000 euros per square meter, which again are coming to the seafront. Nicosia, which is our capital, is a very progressive city with it's rely mainly on the local market. It's also a lot of business over there because the public sector is located in the capital of Cyprus. For example, a modern apartment of 150 square meters, it can cost around 300,000 euros. Approximately, prices starts from 2,000 euros per square meters. In the city center, where the supply is even limited and is considered as a prime location, prices can start from 4,000 euros up to 5,000 euros per square meters. This is an indication. Prices are still good. Prices now is giving it's motivate actually the developers and the real estate companies to reduce the prices and to create special packages to locals and foreigners to come and invest. Actually, many people consider prices as an opportunity to invest, and I think now it's, in my opinion, 2020 and 2021, it was, and it would be a good time for investors to come and invest in Cyprus. The rental yields for 2019 in Cyprus, unfortunately, we're still waiting some statistics for 2020, and 2020 is not an indicative year because of the COVID to speak about the rental yields. Houses, they can give a return approximately up to 3%. Apartments a bit higher, up to 5%. Commercial offices about 5.7%. Same for retail and warehouses, about 5%. However, what I'd like to mention is that even though the rental return for houses and apartments are a bit less, the potential for capital appreciation, especially when they are in a good location and promising location, it's much higher. Capital appreciation can be from 3 to 5% on year-on-year basis, especially when the market in Cyprus is good. Real estate market has been affected worldwide, but what makes Cyprus to be an attractive destination for real estate investors is that Cyprus is a small island of 1 million people. We have 4 million tourists traveling in Cyprus. Especially the last few years was quite good in tourist industry, one of the best climates. We have 65 blue flag beaches. We rank first in the bathing water purity in Europe. Attractive tax regime, member of European Union, good standards of living, easy access to Europe, Asia, and Africa. The reason I'm mentioning this is because Cyprus can easily, with few investments taking place, it can easily turn around and become a positive and a growing market, even though that is a tough time now with the COVID-19. If you can see here, we have a lot of large projects that they are under construction in Cyprus, projects of quite a few billions. This project started 2-3 years ago. It's going to be finished in the next 1-2 years. So we understand that upon the completion of these projects, the market will be much more stronger. Actually, the value of this project is going to have an impact to the real estate market. And I believe that properties nearby to these projects, they will definitely have a capital appreciation. Many other sectors, they are growing. This has an impact to new job needs, new buildings, new accommodations. Education sector as well is growing up. It creates a new market for Cyprus. It's the market of student accommodation buildings, a market that didn't exist 5-10 years ago. Now it's a market that is growing, so it's creating a new opportunities. And the last, I would like to conclude and give some, in my opinion, facts about the Cyprus real estate market. If you can see, the growth was very steady and very humble. So for me, it was not a bubble, actually, what was going the last few years. The market is expected to recover after a couple of years, and especially if the domestic demand in property sales will remain the same. The interest rates are very low now. That is helping people to come and buy and get some loans. Pandemic has made also some people to understand that real estate is important for investment and to see the opportunity to buy a property. The termination of the Cyprus investment program is actually putting on hold some new projects, big projects that they were coming in market. In my opinion, this will keep the supply of new properties in low levels, and this is going to help the prices to remain at the same level. Large project that I explained before is going to help also the market to boost in the future. And as Cyprus is a small island, land availability in good locations is limited. There is shortage of good properties in good locations, especially near the sea and the city centers. These properties are not really affected by the crisis, and except the ones that they have been overpriced, and definitely they will need some correction.
Yes, so you have concluded? Yeah?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for the informative presentation. I'd just like to stress, so we keep it on time, so we are not, we are a little bit behind right now. Okay, now we'll go to the third speaker, which is Mr. Panicos Loizides, Director of Quest Property Consultants, a RICS-regulated firm of dedicated chartered surveyors. Allow me to say a few words about Mr. Panicos. He has over 20 years experience in the property market, following 5 years in the banking sector. He has extensive knowledge on the Leasehold and Franchisement Act, and he has also been acting as an independent expert to lease valuation tribunals. Panicos has worked as an asset manager for significant investment portfolios, both privately owned and listed. When not working or walking his Yorkshire Terrier, Panicos enjoys scuba diving and exploring old shipwrecks. Panicos was born and raised in Cyprus before moving to the UK in the late 90s. Today, Panicos will talk about the property market overview from the UK perspective and share with us UK residential forecast for 2021 and explain also the political influences for 2021. Panicos, the floor is now yours.
Okay. Thank you, Xenia. Thank you, Savvas, for the invitation, and good afternoon, everyone. Okay. In the limited time we have today, I will try and give you an overview of what has happened in the UK property market in 2020 and what to expect in 21. I will start with the residential sector before moving to the commercial, and finally we'll cover the political scene. So last year was actually remarkable for the UK housing market. Despite the deepest recession in living memory, house prices rose by 6.5% in the year to the end of November. At the beginning of the pandemic, who could have thought that we would see 20 billion of monthly mortgage approvals? This was mainly to the purchasers with the financial ability, the ones who were able to reassess their housing needs following the experience of lockdown, and also an expectation that the pandemic would have a lasting impact on the quality of life. So these are the three tiers we anticipate to experience this year. In the first 3 months, we expect transactions and prices to continue to be supported by a combination of the stamp duty holiday, which runs to the end of March, the final days of the current Help to Buy scheme run by the government, and the continued reassessment of buyers to find a home that better meets their requirements, especially after the experience of another lockdown during the winter months. For the middle part of the year, we expect a quieter period, with the stamp duty holiday due come to an end. At the same time, we have the unemployment that's expected to peak following the end of the current furlough scheme. We can anticipate limited activity for the period. During this period, it's also likely to mark the end of the work from home experiment, as people will start returning to their office environment on a more frequent basis. This is likely to result in less urgency for buyers to upsize or relocate. So move to the last part of the year. That's when we should expect the economic fundamentals to come back. Possibility of falling unemployment, continued low interest rates. These are expected to restore the housing market demand. However, there is possibility that buyers will be concerned by the prospect of any tax rises, as the government will try to balance its books. The rental market has been affected in the last 12 months. That's a fact. Some reports indicate up to 20% drop in market rent for less favorable properties. The pandemic has changed tenant requirements. During the first lockdown in spring, early summer, tenants have discovered their need for extra space, and more importantly, outside space, whether a garden or a balcony. We have all heard about the couple sharing a studio flat and found themselves both working from home, or the sharers who've now realized what it is to share accommodation 24/7 and not just a couple of hours a day. Eviction restrictions and new regulations also affected the buy-to-let market. This included a restriction on evicting tenants on non-payment of rent, and a later regulation that a tenant needs to be in 6-month rent arrears before a court application for repossession is submitted. If we move to some graphs now, this graph shows the yearly average price increase in England between December 19 and November 20. In the early months between December 19 following the general elections, which takes us to March 20, there was a slight increase. Then we had the first lockdown, which was basically a shock to everyone's system. But then from May 20 onwards, we can see an increase in property prices, which rises to year-on-year of 6.5% by November. The next slide shows the yearly percentage increase for all types of residential property in London. This has a very similar pattern to the England average prices, but recorded an annual increase of 9.8 by November 20. Move to this table, which shows the monthly average price in England and London by comparison, with the number of transactions per month. Here we can notice an increased number of transactions in December 19. We had over 70,000 transactions. This was an extraordinary month, actually, as many transactions were on hold at the time until the outcome of the general elections. The following 3 months, with approximately 50,000 transactions, it's a steady number of transactions, and then we have in April, which is a drop as a result of the lockdown of March last year. June to September show an increased number of transactions, whilst pushing the average prices upwards. Let's have a look at the commercial property market now, starting with the office sector. Office demand will remain below trend in 21, but there are some sectors like life sciences which could outperform. Equity targeting the key central London office market remains high and will drive a reasonable recovery. Flexibility in employee working locations will be a big theme this year, but the long-term trend of office requirements linked to the space efficiency will be a big driver for the office demand. COVID-19 has actually savaged what was an already weak retail sector, suffering from high costs, lack of innovations, and pressure from the online retail market. Although some retail formats remain resilient, like supermarkets and retail parks, the sector will now be forced to think very radically about its future. In September of 2020, we also see the introduction of the new used class order, which mainly consolidated the retail uses of A1, A2, A3, Office B1, D1, and D2, all under a new broad Class E. The already surging logistics sector was given a second wind by the pandemic as online retail surged. With strong demand and weaker supply, rents are likely to rise further, especially for well-located properties surrounding the urban areas. Amazon alone has taken 10 million square feet of logistics accommodation in the last 12 months. That is nearly 1 million square meters for those who prefer metric. In this sector, yields are expected to fall even further as less specialized investors will find a way to access this market. Next, we have a table prepared by Savvas showing the prime yields in the various sectors. The average prime yield across all sectors remained broadly stable in December 20. We can note, however, the yearly increase in sectors like high street retail, shopping centers, and leisure parks. On the other end, industrial distribution was a sector of choice in November, moving in by 25 basis points to 3.75. Although investment volumes were subdued for much of the year, over 10 billion was actually invested into UK commercial property in Q4 20, with over a third of that being in industrial investments. On the economy, the two national lockdowns in March and November and the current open-ended one mean that the UK economy will not recover to pre-pandemic size until at least mid-2022. We expect a consumer-driven recovery, a combination of low interest rates, low inflation, possibility of powerful fiscal stimulus, and finally the resolution of Brexit should support the recovery. While real estate faces a quiet year, I believe we'll have a good midterm recovery going forward. This slide shows the monthly GDP growth for 2020, we can note here as GDP goes actually negative during the months of lockdown. So what are the political influences we can expect in 2021? Firstly, we have the Scottish elections in May. Will this lead to another independence referendum? It is very possible. During the first referendum in 2014, it was only 15.5% of Scots who voted to remain in the Union. Since then, of course, lots of things happened. Most importantly, Brexit happened. On taxation, this year the government will look to review the capital gains tax and overhaul the business rates. We'll also see the introduction of a new non-UK residence surcharge, which is going to be 2% over and above the standard rates of stamp duty. Next, there is the ongoing review of the land use planning, which will change the developers' contributions on community infrastructure, things like roads, schools, parks. We have the leasehold reform, which was announced by the housing minister earlier this month. The main changes recommended here are the extension of residential leases from 90 to 990 years, the abolition of ground rent on new leasehold properties, the abolition of marriage value, amongst others. Finally, the political stability. There have been frequent general elections lately. We've had one in 2015, 17, 19. The last one, though, in 19, saw a majority win for the Tories, which should provide some stability for the next few years. Political stabilities are always good. It's a good factor when it comes to the property market and the economy in general. Okay, thank you all for listening. There's so much to cover, but I hope I have given you a good overview of the UK property market.
Thank you very much, Panicos, for this informative presentation. We have just finished the real estate sector of our presentations. I invite all our audience and attendees to, if they have any questions, to send them in the chat, and our speakers will address them at the end of the presentation. So keep your questions coming in. Okay, so now we move to the next topic of to the next speaker and the next topic of our presentation today, which is about intellectual property. Our fourth speaker is Mr. Nick Kounoupias, the CEO and founder at Kounoupias IP. Allow me to say a few words about Mr. Kounoupias. He's a UK solicitor and one of the best-known names in the international IP world. Nick has practiced across all the IP sectors since 1986, both in private practice and in-house, and during that time developed a formidable international reputation for his depth of IP knowledge and diverse strengths. Nick has set up Kounoupias IP to guide on IP issues outside of the field of traditional legal services. I'm happy to have met Nick personally in the last 2 years and was amazed by his passion for protecting intellectual property rights. Mr. Kounoupias is regularly instructed worldwide to provide strategic guidance and support on IP issues to the UK and international IP businesses, including those involved in the creative industries, academic institutions, law enforcement and government agencies. Today, Mr. Kounoupias will talk about how Brexit has affected the IP landscape between the UK and Cyprus, especially the parallel trade market. He will also share with us research opportunities and funding from the EU, now going to Cyprus and not the UK. Okay, Mr. Nick, the floor is now yours.
Thank you very much, Xenia, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is safe in these very difficult times that we're all facing. And a welcome from cold, snowy London to warm, lovely, sunny Cyprus. We've just had two excellent presentations on land estate, physical property. So that's property that you can touch and feel and visit and live in and buy and sell. I want to talk to you for the next 10, 12 minutes or so about intellectual property, which is a very different kind of property, but it's still nevertheless property. And it's the property that arises when you create something, and in return for sharing your creative process and your creation with the world, the state gives you a monopoly ranging from 3 years to your entire life plus another 70 years, depending upon which intellectual property right we've created. But just to introduce this by talking about Brexit for a moment. Brexit happened at the end of January last year. It didn't happen earlier this month. It happened almost a year ago. But after it happened, there was this period of time, about 11.5 months, of transitional provisions where there was a change over that period to enable the UK and the EU to get accustomed to this different relationship. Because now the UK is a third country as far as the European Union is concerned. It is as much a third country to the European Union as China or South Africa or Brazil. There's a historical relationship, but in pure legal terms, it is a third country. And that's very, very important to realize. The other factor, which I believe people in Cyprus haven't really appreciated, is just how popular Brexit is in the UK. There is this perception that Brexit is a mistake, or that Brexit was an aberration, or that Brexit was something the British people didn't realize. That may have been the case in one of the elections, but there have been 4 opportunities, where the British people had an opportunity to decide whether they supported Brexit or not. There was the 2017 general election. There was a 2016 referendum, which, as you know, was 52-48 in favour of leaving the European Union. Narrow. There was then the 2017 general election, in which the party that won, the Conservatives, fought the election on a manifesto of leaving the European Union. There was then the parliamentary elections in 2019, again, in which the biggest party that won the seats for the UK was actually the Brexit Party, which was created 5 weeks before the election, and yet it won the most seats at those elections. And then we had the 2019 general election, December 2019, at which the Conservatives won again with an even bigger majority, making it clear that they really wanted Brexit. So I'm afraid Brexit is here to stay. Whether you are a Brexiteer or a Remainer in the UK actually is irrelevant, because what I want to talk to you about today is why Brexit is good for Cyprus. Because it is fabulous for Cyprus. But unfortunately, many people don't see it. But I'll try to explain to you now why I think it is and why there are so many opportunities. Firstly, I'm not going to talk in detail about what intellectual property is. If anyone has any questions, they can, of course, send me a question and I will answer it. But the broad areas are copyrights, trademarks, patents, designs, and trade secrets. And each of these protect the different facets of the creative process. But Cyprus has a wonderful opportunity to become the Israel of the European Union. And there are many problems in Cyprus, and I would say in the traditional areas of growth that we have had. You know, I'm not going to comment individually on them, but oil and gas, for example, we've always got the problem with Turkey in the background. Tourism has taken a huge hit because of the pandemic. Shipping has got lots of competition. Renewable energy, we haven't quite made it yet there in Cyprus. But the one thing we Cypriots are superb at is human capital and the commercializing the product of our entrepreneurship. We are superb at that. And the European Union has also recognized that. The European Union has made the commercialization of academic research as one of its priorities in the next 5 years. And Cyprus is very well placed to take advantage, particularly because of Brexit, because a lot of the commercial research that was taking place in the European Union was happening previously in the UK. The UK is no longer part of the European Union. A lot of the funding for that research is now coming to Cyprus, and I have personal experience of this. I have a vision for Cyprus, and that's to cultivate a culture of innovation and creativity, which will bring together scientists, entrepreneurs, creators, and designers closer together to enable the innovation, the commercialization of research, and the monetization of creative output that will spur the economic growth and prosperity on the island that we've heard about already today. We can do it. It's easy for us to do it, and we don't have to rely on being friends with the Turks to do it. We don't have to rely on the weather. We don't have to rely on absence of a pandemic. This is something that's within our control and gift, and we should take advantage of it. But to do that, you have to make sure that you've got the right kinds of protection for the intellectual property which underpins this work. You can't do this without identifying, securing, and managing and protecting the IP that's involved. Intellectual property is what I call the golden thread that runs through everything, because without a strong IP infrastructure, you can't have protection of the innovation that you can create. And there are many things that you can do to improve the situation in Cyprus. You already started by appointing a superb minister for innovation, Mr. Kokkinou. However, that only covers the digital and the research space. All these other areas of creativity like music, film, trademarks, brands, advertising, they're not yet protected at government level, and they should be. What I wanted to say next, though, is a bit more controversial, but I think, especially because of Brexit, Cyprus needs to distance itself as much as possible from the United Kingdom. Historically, because of the colonial history, Cypriot laws have tended to follow the laws of the United Kingdom. And in Cyprus, we have this beast called the common law, which is very different to the civil law that you have across all of mainland Europe, including Greece. But the UK, for the last few years, as I've demonstrated, has been moving further and further away from Europe. In fact, one of the things that I'm doing at the moment in the UK is working with the British government in negotiating, on the IP side at least, the various international trade agreements that the UK is entering into with non-EU partners. So we've had one with Japan, we had one with Turkey, there's going to be one with India, one with New Zealand, one with Australia, one with Canada, just on the table at the moment. So the UK is adopting a very non-EU focused set of laws going forward. And it's a deliberate attempt to internationalize the UK's presence without being stuck with the EU. So already the UK has pushed itself outside the EU. It would be a mistake for Cyprus to be tied to the apron strings of the UK on these areas of law. For example, in Cyprus, there are music organisations which are representatives in Cyprus of the UK music organisations. They're agencies. We don't need that. Set up our own. Have our own Cypriot music industry collecting society. Why do you need to be an agent of a former colonial power? You don't. And actually, being closer to the EU is the natural home for Cyprus now. Brexit, whether you support it or not, it is as a UK issue. But for Cyprus, it's an opportunity to take advantage of the area vacated by the UK. We heard earlier about relocations. I think it was the minister was, or Nicolas may have been talking about the relocations to Cyprus and why you should do it. Yes, many UK businesses that I know and some that I act for have relocated to Cyprus because they want to be within the EU for business purposes and see all those advantages. Brexit is an opportunity for Cypriot and for Cyprus. It's not a threat. The We talked about life sciences. In Panicos' presentation, one of the areas that he noticed that for commercial use, there may be an increase will be for life sciences. That's an important and very interesting observation, because life sciences is also something that Cyprus is very good at. I work closely with all the universities in Cyprus, and the quality of the research and innovation that's going on there is phenomenal. It really is. It took me by surprise. In some universities, it's the equal of what's going on in Oxford or Cambridge or Imperial in England. And the EU recognises that and is pouring money into Cyprus because of it. Some of the technology and research in Cyprus is actually Israeli technology. But again, the Israelis have set up operations in Cyprus in order to take advantage of the EU laws that are available there. And one of the great EU innovations is it's just been renewed, but it used to be called the EU Horizon 2020 program. And this was funding to organizations in the research and innovation space to help them create products that would then benefit the EU. And it's interesting that we should be having this conversation today, because there is a massive argument going on at the moment today between the EU and the UK about the availability of vaccines for the pandemic. There is a vaccine that was produced by Oxford University and a company called AstraZeneca, which is being used to vaccinate so many people in England. I know lots of people have been vaccinated with it already. But that vaccine is not available in the EU yet. In fact, it hasn't even been officially endorsed by the EU yet, because they haven't yet managed to sort out the issue in what language the packaging should be. But that original vaccine was created as a result of various research grants, which the UK got and Sweden got, I think, from the EU. That won't happen anymore. So where will those vaccines be developed in the future? Finally, I wanted to talk about a very technical legal issue, and I don't expect people who are non-lawyers to follow this straight away, but I want to just lay the seeds for this, because it's something that will really be very important to Cyprus going forward. And Ksenia touched on it in her introduction, and it's this issue called parallel trade. And it's parallel trade is where within a single market, so the single market is the European Union for these purposes, you can buy a product in one territory where the product is cheap and import it into another EU member state where the product is usually very expensive and sell it in that other member state for an increased price. Up until the end of last year, it was possible, for example, for someone based in the UK to import medicines from Poland for, let's say, €1,000 per box, and then in England to sell them for €5,000 per box and make €4,000 profit. That was possible under EU law because the UK was part of this single market. The UK is no longer part of that single market. The position under UK law at the moment is that you can import something without infringing anyone else's intellectual property rights, but you can't export. So what does this mean to Cyprus? It means that Cypriot companies, if they want to carry on trading with the UK, can export product to the UK which have someone else's trademark on, or copyrights or patents, any IP rights. But if someone wants to export from the UK to Cyprus with someone else's intellectual property rights on, the Cypriot owner of those rights can object to it. Why? Because the UK is no longer part of the same market. Now, this, I think, will develop over time, but it's an area where I believe you will see more exports going from Cyprus to the UK than imports coming from the UK to Cyprus. And that will be the case with every single EU member state. It won't just be Cyprus. And what that will mean is that more and more businesses will choose to set up their operations in the intellectual property sphere in Cyprus, because they can take advantage of that. Whereas if they're stuck in the UK, they can't. So I see many opportunities for Cyprus because of Brexit. And there are also many political advantages for the UK being out of the EU, but that's for another panel and another discussion, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nick, for the very nice presentation. And any of our audience have any questions for Nick, please keep sending them in the chat or the Q&A control panel, so we'll answer them at the end. Okay, we are now coming to our last but not least speaker, Mrs. Alexandra Kokkinou. She's an advocate at Tassos, Papadopoulos and Associates LSC, one of the Cyprus leading law firms in Cyprus. A few words about Alexandra. She's a qualified lawyer and member of the Cyprus Bar Association since 2013, with a strong background in corporate and commercial law. Her academic background includes graduating from the University of Southampton Law School and undertaking a postgraduate degree at the University of Manchester in International Business and Commercial Law. She's an associate in the Corporate Law Department at Tassos, Papadopoulos and Associates for 6 years. One of her main areas of expertise is data protection and privacy law. She's a member of the International Association of Privacy Professionals and the International Network of Privacy Law Professionals. She contributes various articles on an array of privacy law matters from time to time. She has further gained her certification in International Privacy Professionals in Europe. Currently, she acts as Data Protection Officer and Project Supervisor for 2 separate public authorities in Cyprus regarding their privacy law-related matters. Today, Mrs. Kokkinou will talk about GDPR and Brexit, and she's going to explain the changes for UK business processing personal data. Okay, thank you. You can start. The floor is yours, Alexandra.
Thank you, Xenia, for the introduction, and hello everyone from Cyprus. It is a pleasure to participate in the 4th international webinar of the Great Britain-Cyprus Business Association on behalf of our law firm, and to listen to the very interesting presentations carried out by my fellow speakers. As already described by Xenia in the title of my presentation, today I will be addressing the key data protection requirements to be considered by UK businesses at the end of the Brexit transition period, in compliance with the provisions of the General Data Protection Regulation, or the GDPR. Due to our limited time together, I will focus on 2 main areas and their key characteristics. The first part of my presentation will focus on how data can continue to flow between the UK and the EU. And the second part will deal with the circumstances where UK businesses are obliged to appoint an EU representative. So starting with the matter of data flows. As everyone is well aware, the Brexit transition period ended on the 31st of December 2020. To a certain degree, the UK regained autonomy of data protection laws from the 1st of January 2021. This has entailed certain European data protection laws being converted into UK law. For example, the UK GDPR, which largely reflects or mirrors the EU GDPR, sits alongside the Data Protection Act 2018 and governs the protection of personal data in the UK. Although the main principles, rights, and obligations remain in place, the UK is now treated as a third country, as mentioned by Nick earlier on, for the purposes of the EU GDPR, and consequently, important implications exist in relation to cross-border data flows between the EU and the UK, rendering them to be deemed as international data transfers for the purposes of the GDPR. International data transfers are restricted under the regulation unless personal data is protected by a specific safeguard provided for by the regulation, or if an exception applies. The best safeguard pursuant to the regulation is considered to be an adequacy decision, which the UK government is currently seeking from the European Commission in order to allow the free flow of data between the UK and the EU to continue uninterrupted. An adequacy decision is essentially a finding by the European Commission that a third country or an international organization offers levels of data protection that are essentially equivalent to that within the EU. The effect of such decision is that personal data can be sent from one member state of the European Economic Area, or EEA, to a third country without any further safeguard being necessary. Examples of countries for which the European Commission has already issued an adequacy decision involve Japan, Argentina, Israel, and Canada. To allow time for the EU to consider whether to grant such an adequacy decision, as part of the new trade deal, the EU has agreed to delay transfer restrictions for at least 4 months, which may be extended to 6 months, also known as the bridge or the bridging period. This is a very important decision, considering that at least half of the UK's international data flows are with the EU, from healthcare to financial services, through tourism and banking. There is practically no industry that would not have been affected by an abrupt end to the free flow of data between the EU and the UK. Therefore, during the said bridge period, transfers from the EEA to the UK can take place without any new arrangements under the same conditions as applicable before and during the transition period. This means that until the end of the bridge period, the same rules apply to the transfer of personal data to the UK as to transfers within the EU. At the end of the bridging period, however, and in the absence of an EU adequacy decision discussed before, these transfers will need to comply with the EU GDPR rules. This means that an EEA controller or processor will be able to make a restricted transfer of personal data to the UK if any of the transfer mechanisms or safeguards are in place. Usually, the simplest way to provide an appropriate safeguard for a restricted transfer from the EU to the UK will be entering into standard contractual clauses, or else SCCs, with the sender of the personal data, or adopting other appropriate safeguards, which include the implementation of binding corporate rules for multinational groups, or relying on any of the available derogations in the GDPR. In conclusion, due to the fact that it is yet to be determined with certainty whether an adequacy decision will be issued by the European Commission by the end of the bridge period, a sensible precaution during the bridge period would be for UK businesses to work with EU organizations who transfer personal data to them to put in place alternative transfer mechanisms in order to safeguard against any interruption to the free flow of EU to UK personal data. Moving on to the second part of my presentation, I will address the matter of appointing an EU representative, when this is considered to be mandatory under the GDPR, and what key characteristics should such a representative maintain. Following Brexit and pursuant to Article 27 of the GDPR, companies that are based in the UK with no offices, branches, or other establishment in the EEA could be required to appoint an EU representative if they act as either a controller or a processor defined under the GDPR, and if they offer goods or services to individuals within the EEA or monitor their behavior in the EEA. However, not all such companies maintain such responsibility. The nature of the processing also needs to be taken into account. The regulation states that the obligation to nominate an EU representative will not apply to public authorities or public bodies, or when processing is occasional, does not include on a large scale processing of special categories of data, which include, for example, health data or data relating to the racial or ethnic origin of a person, or when processing personal data relating to criminal convictions and offenses. And when this is unlikely to result in a risk to the rights and freedoms of natural persons, taking into account, of course, the nature, the context, scope, and purposes of the processing. It is important at this point to note that a decision not to appoint an EU representative must be made with caution. Given the high stakes of non-compliance, which includes hefty financial sanctions and reputational risk, such a decision should only be made after seeking professional advice in order to evidence UK business compliance in line with the accountability principle of the GDPR. In the event that a UK business is challenged on their decision not to appoint an EU representative, or if they are under investigation by a supervisory authority, such documentation will also be important. Therefore, once a UK business has established whether they will be required to appoint an EU representative, the next thing to look at is the requirements and the role of such EU rep. An EU representative may be a company or a natural person based in the EEA, who will act as a point of contact for UK-based controllers or processors vis-à-vis data subjects, as well as supervisory authorities, and which shall represent them with respect to their obligations under the GDPR. This is done by a written mandate, usually a service contract. In addition to acting as a local contact point, the EU rep must cooperate with the competent supervisory authorities in respect of any action, investigation, or claim under the GDPR. An EU rep shall also maintain records of processing activities for the UK-based company and shall cooperate with the supervisory authority upon request in order to facilitate any procedural or informational exchange between a requesting supervisory authority and the UK-based company. In practice, this would mean that a supervisory authority, such as the Commission for the Protection of Personal Data in Cyprus, would contact the EU rep in connection with any matter relating to the compliance obligations of the UK-based company. As mentioned before, an EU representative must be established in one of the member states of the EU, and the choice of such member state is made depending on where most of the data subjects whose personal data are processed in relation to the offering of goods or services, or where they're monitored, are located. This is because it's easier for EU-based data subjects to communicate and work with an EU-based entity. This could include responding to data subjects in their mother tongue to the extent that this is possible, responding to data subject access requests or deletion requests, etc. Therefore, if, for example, you are a UK-based e-tailer who has a significant and recurring revenue stream coming from Cyprus, it would make sense to have your EU representative based in this country to be able to conduct affairs, for example, in Greek. So wrapping up the second part of my presentation, it is quite evident that the nature of these key characteristics that an EU rep must have has meant that legal professionals and data specialists have emerged as being best placed for the role, and due to their existing expertise in data protection laws, are best placed to respond to any data subject requests and queries from supervisory authorities. This is particularly pertinent when looking at recital 80, for example, of the GDPR, which states that such EU representatives should be subject to enforcement proceedings in the event of non-compliance by the controller or processor. So whilst the EU representative will only ever be liable for their own breaches of their representative duties, they will still have the risk of enforcement proceedings being carried out against them as a UK company's representative. In this scenario, they will act as a facilitator of contact and act on the UK company's instructions. Having had the opportunity to shed some light on the key implications on UK businesses concerning personal data protection, at this point, I would like to thank everyone for attending this webinar and say special thanks to Mr. Savvas Kyriakides and the Great Britain-Cyprus Business Association for organizing this event and inviting us to participate, as well as to our moderator, Mrs. Xenia Neofitou, for all the coordination and facilitation of the event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexandra, and thank you to all our speakers for giving us their perspective from their field. Before we start with the audience questions, I would like to pose general questions for all the panelists. From your specialized area, what do you think is the most challenging area that you will face EU and UK post-Brexit? And I will start with Alexandra. What do you think is the most challenging now post-Brexit for UK in data protection?
First of all, I think that it's very important, even though that most of the information provided is that the European Commission will provide an adequacy decision for the UK. Nonetheless, I think that UK companies should start taking stock of the information they are currently processing, and to see what type of data and which countries are involved in order to start a conversation with all of their partners in the EU to mark all the data flows that are that will be mandatory to do and adopt standard contractual clauses, having conducted the risk assessment of these standard contractual clauses, in order to ensure and to be able to verify that even though an adequacy decision will not be issued, then UK businesses will have adopted all the measures in order to safeguard and protect the data flows of personal data. And this will apply to EU companies as well, which will continue to be under the obligation of complying with the GDPR. Therefore, in order for EU companies to transfer data to the UK as a third country, they will have to ensure that safeguards will be in place. So I think it should not be put in delay. I think it's a project that should start now, so as to ensure the compliance with the GDPR. Thank you.
So you think like a UK company with a branch in EU and assign a representative, are there any restrictions in such a case? Will it help more if they have a UK branch in a European country like Cyprus, for example?
Well, it would surely facilitate the situation if they have a representative in the EU. But once again, safeguards will have to be put in place in order to protect the personal data that will be sent from the EU, where the establishment will be, to the UK. So yes, it will be a facilitation, but it does not mean that compliance with the GDPR with regards to the safeguards will not have to be adopted.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much, Alexandra. I would like now to ask the same question to Mr. Kounoupias. If he can tell us the most challenging post-Brexit thing in IP between EU and UK.
Well, I'm including Cyprus within the EU here, because the biggest obstacle is actually going to be ensuring across the EU the same level of respect, awareness and education about IP. If the EU wants to make Cyprus the center of its IP excellence, which is a fantastic opportunity for Cyprus going forward, it requires Cyprus and Cypriots to understand the opportunities and intellectual property and to do something about it. So for example, in France or Italy or Spain, countries that have very strong businesses with IP rights, they have very, very great respect and specialist courts and specialist police that deal with intellectual property. We don't have that in Cyprus, and it's a massive omission. And Cyprus will never be able to take full advantage without it. The UK does. Actually, one of the things the UK is very good at is having the IP infrastructure. There are 1,000 people that work in the intellectual property office in the UK, more than 1,000. In Cyprus, there's 2, I think. And in order for Cyprus to take the opportunities available to it, it needs to understand and put in place measures to increase this awareness and respect and culture for IP across all sectors. And that is the case for all of the EU, but I think Cyprus is probably in need of it more than anywhere else.
So you see there's an opportunity. And
it's a fantastic opportunity.
And for the UK as well, there may be some missed opportunities if the other EU members are...
There will be many, many missed opportunities, not just for the UK infrastructure, but specific professions in the UK have suffered because of Brexit. So for example, designers can no longer protect their designs across the 27 member states of the EU in the way that they did a few weeks ago. They have great protection in the UK, but trying to protect the UK designers' rights in France, for example, is now going to be almost impossible.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much, Nick. And
Pleasure.
now I'm moving to the two people representing the real estate sector. I will start with Nikos, coming from Cyprus. I want to tell us, you tell us your views, if there are any, what is the most challenging thing with the Brexit, and if it will affect the real estate sector in Cyprus, and how do you view this thing?
I will agree with our previous speaker that Brexit is maybe an opportunity for Cyprus, and if I consider that British traditionally they were looking at Cyprus as a holiday destination and as a destination for a holiday house or for retirement and relocation. Now the opportunity of relocating in Cyprus for business purposes, it's something that is going to be another value actually for us if we achieve to manage this opportunity in the right way. And if Cyprus government, which is doing it already, give the right incentives to buyers, for example, incentives like instead of 19% VAT, the 5% VAT on the first properties, property 0% transfer fees when the title deed is issued. In the right way, I think with these incentives, why not to at least sustain, the volume of the British buyers buying in Cyprus. I'm positive that the relation between the two countries and the tradition of British to invest in Cyprus is going to remain the same, at least.
Okay, yeah, I agree as well. So, and now ask the same question to Mr. Panicos. Loizides from the UK aspect. What is his opinion about the relationship and the real estate, or what are the most challenging things post-Brexit now in the real estate?
My personal view is that foreign investment into the UK real estate is not really affected by Brexit in any particular way. If there was any issues, there would have been more historic issues rather than Brexit linked. For instance, the UK has always been on a different currency to, say, the Cyprus pound or the euro since 2008. And the other thing is things like the capital gains tax for non-EU residents. That was introduced in 2015, which is not a Brexit related. It's something that someone would have thought in 15, actually, I now need to pay capital gains tax on my UK properties. I mean, my view is that it's a very fair tax to pay when it was introduced in 15, but that's not the issue. So I don't see any Brexit issues in terms of investment in the UK. It's more likely to create opportunities, which would be mostly linked to currency fluctuation. And with the UK being outside the European Union, its economy is going to be more, it could be affected more than the European Union as a whole. So again, it could create some opportunities because, say, economic decline. But I don't see Brexit as an issue in investments.
Okay, thank you very much for your questions. Do we have any? I think there is a question from the audience. Do we have any questions, Savvas, from the audience, or shall I?
Actually, I have one question with two parts. The first part is for Nicolas, and the second one for Alexandra. Coming out from my contacts with the British people here in the UK and British Cypriots in the UK, they are asking whether after Brexit and having in mind the end of the Cyprus policy regarding the passports, will be, Nicolas, some greatest prices in the property market for the British and the British Cypriots that, to buy in Cyprus? I mean, because there are some projects already under development, and you are looking, of course, not yourself only, but the other property developers, you are looking for clients, for buyers. Are you do you see, for example, that there is an opportunity coming for the British people to buy in a better price in the near future? And the second part, I'm going to Alexandra, and you are answering. They are asking also if after Brexit will be some additional legal procedures in the transfer of their money and to buy in Cyprus. So we start with Nicolas. I don't know if you understand the question, Alexandra.
I think I do, but
Okay.
I'll allow Nicolas to start with his answer and we'll go.
Thank you very much.
Savvas, actually, okay, we're in a crisis period, and definitely the developers, they will adjust their prices, and considering the past few years, definitely to be opportunities in the market for buyers. Properties that probably they have high demands or they're in prime location, maybe, you know, still there will be up and down, will not be huge margins as, you know, in the period, for example, of 2008 and 2009, that was the biggest crisis, and it was really a deeper problem. And I think developers will adjust also to give incentives and some motivations to buyers to buy in Cyprus, even online, some better prices, discounts, and etc. For me, what I see developers to struggle is on the projects, developments that they have been designed especially for a specific purpose or specific clients. For example, properties over 2 million euros that they are for citizenship and they are too expensive, or, you know, these kind of properties, maybe they struggle a bit, but the rest of the developments, I think, yes, it will be some incentives, some discounts is a good opportunity, but I think the market will keep up for at least for a couple of years. I think if we stay on the same volumes as 2020, I think Cyprus can sustain the market in the next couple of years. It's a healthy market actually, and I think it's the right time now for British to invest in Cyprus.
Thank you, Alexandra.
So as far as my understanding is concerned, the question is whether there is an indication of further legal requirements or more legal complexity being involved in the future.
Some additional legal documents, for example, after Brexit, is there any introduction of any other documents, for example, because of the Brexit, or it's still the same?
But we are talking about which topic though, because Brexit obviously involves a series of topics. If we are talking about data protection, then as I said in my presentation, we will have to see, we will have to obviously see whether the UK company has to appoint an EU representative. If their data subjects, if the multitude of their data subjects are located in Cyprus, then the EU representative should be located in Cyprus. It's not a complex process, it's a service contract, and there's a procedure that needs to be undertaken. But if you mean Brexit concerning another topic and I can assist, please let me know if it's not data protection related.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think now we also have one question from the audience. He's asking about a property professional who wishes to consider moving to Cyprus, especially where the business involves real estate. And he's asking whether that person is to obtain a Cyprus real estate license, which can only be obtained through a third-party Cypriot. And if this can cause several problems, and he says, and it can be extremely costly. So he also asks, should not be the case where the individual may have years of experience and qualification like rigs and etc. within the sector, be able to set up a company and obtain a license or right to establish a business based upon their experience and professional standing. So I understand that they're asking if they need, if they come from the UK now and they need a license to set up the real estate business, and what are the criteria and qualification. I understand if Maybe the real estate Mr. Karoullas or Panicos can answer this question.
Xenia, so Panicos, please go ahead.
Okay, we'll start from the UK perspective then, and then we'll go to...
Sorry, I cannot really answer the full question. What I can answer in terms of the RICS regulation, as being RICS regulated firm as well, my understanding is that in Cyprus, the RICS regulation is not recognized as such, and it needs to be approved by a DEC. That is my understanding. In terms of license, I leave to Nicolas.
Yeah.
You're right. In Cyprus, to get a license for real estate, you need to actually either pass through exams or specific real estate programs in Cyprus, and then exams in the association of the real estate agency in Cyprus to obtain a license. However, it depends always, if you are established in Cyprus and you would like to promote the properties in Cyprus market, then yes, a license is required. If the promotion of the properties, Cyprus properties, is going to take place in UK, then there is a different system actually, and this is something that it can take place. But RICS, yes, it cannot, is not valid for Cyprus at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much for the informative answers. Let me see, we have another question now to Mr. Panicos Loizides. As from the beginning of 2000, clients from UK were the first ones to come and buy properties in Cyprus, followed by Russians, as you should be aware. With the first financial crisis, UK owners started selling their properties and moving out of Cyprus. Cyprus still was and is one of the top travel destinations for UK, but all these years Cyprus was not considered as a market for second home or retirement for UK citizens. Do you believe with Brexit we can expect the return of the interest from the side of UK citizens into residential property market?
It's hard to predict, and what I can say, and I will also link it to the pandemic, which we had this great experiment of working from home, and many people, not just retirement, many people can now work remotely from anywhere in the world. I've known quite a few people who during the last year have moved to Greece, Spain, Bermuda to work because they can do it. So that could increase the possibility, better weather, better quality of life in Cyprus for both the retirement or working from home. It could create an opportunity, yes.
Okay, maybe Nicolas would like to add something on this question as well, if he has any comments.
Sorry. Actually, I agree with Panicos. It's a trend. The times are changing. Many people, they consider relocating. They consider other things. For example, health now is a priority to many people. So they can choose a destination where weather is better or is more healthy, or there is the right infrastructure, for example, and they can work from there, or they can. Digitalization as well is affecting the market a lot in many countries.
And I have a similar question, or a bit different one. It says, for the UK-based professionals, do you believe Cyprus real estate can attract high-level British buyers with high budgets?
I will cover that, even though I'm not, I cannot really comment on the UK, sorry, on the Cyprus investment market. All I can mention, I mean, you've looked at my presentation where I've said the logistics, say, sector yields are approximately 3.75%. And if you looked at Nicolas' presentation, where he had classified them as the same warehouses, are at about 5%, I think.
Yes.
So from an investor point of view, yes, Cyprus is more high yielding compared to the UK. It could attract, but on the other hand, UK property, if I'm comparing like for like, the UK property has been a much more stable market. We have very low interest rates now are 0.1%. So at 3.75 yields is still very attractive compared to the base rate. It's hard to tell if to compare the two markets for a UK investor to look at Cyprus investments, but definitely yields are more attractive.
Okay.
Yeah, can I comment on that?
Yeah, sure.
Actually, Panicos is right, because definitely UK is more established market. It attracts international big players, billionaires. Cyprus is a small country. It's a country that is just building this market the last 10, 20 years. And definitely, if you would like to hear my opinion, maybe you are not so much ready to accept this kind of investors or buyers, but I think you are building it and we are in the right direction to do so. Some of them, they are even thinking about Cyprus now, but maybe not the volumes that definitely UK attracts. And something that it's okay. Most important for me is that now the COVID is teaching us something, that it's a mess around the world, that is different other people considering many other things, not only the real estate, currencies, investment diversification. So many people, they will see that if they have all their money based, for example, in UK, maybe they will think for an alternative investment in another country, in another currency, and etc. So diversifying their portfolio, maybe Cyprus can be one of their options, you know, and maybe not a small percentage of their investment. It doesn't. So I think if this is the case, maybe some of them, they will think about Cyprus.
Okay, thank you very much. I think now it's time flies, and I think we're approaching towards the end. So I would like now our presenters to give us their key message from their perspective, from their speech, like summarize and their views for 2021. And give us the key takeaway that they would like the audience to go away with. What will be, starting from Our Lady Alexandra, what do you think you want the audience to take away regarding the subject you talked about 2021, about the situation with Brexit and all of that? What is the key message you would like our audience to leave with?
I would like to say that the reality was that, at least in Cyprus and in many other countries, Brexit was seen and treated as a nightmare for them. Nobody wanted the UK to leave the EU, but I will agree with my fellow speaker, Nicolas, when he stated that a lot of advantages can come with the EU, with the UK leaving the EU. And even though it might not be ideal for some businesses and some people, meaning not ideal, meaning that there is a process that they will have to undertake in order to continue with their business and their operations. I think change is good, and we all have to focus on continuing our operations and being in compliance with the new laws and the regulation, which are there to guide us and to hopefully make our operations and businesses easier and faster. So I'm I'm wishing good luck to all the UK businesses out there, and I am urging them, especially in terms of the data protection laws, to start taking into stock and into account all the data and the location that they are located, to see what steps they need to adopt to be in compliance with the GDPR in case an adequacy decision is not issued by the European Commission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Alexandra. Okay, and now I would like to ask the same question to Kounoupias. What is okay? You said that okay, post Brexit there are opportunities for Cyprus and etc. What is the key message you would like our audience to take away with, and some other things you would like to summarize or emphasize for your?
Well, Ksenia, well, thank you. This is the GB Cyprus Business Association, and the history between Cyprus and Great Britain hasn't always been a harmonious or positive one because of the history, and we won't go into the history. However, Britain has given Cyprus the most wonderful present, the most wonderful opportunity by choosing to leave the European Union. And there are many positives because of that. But the one I want to focus on here is the business opportunity, because the space vacated by British businesses, British universities, can be filled by Cypriots or by companies relocating in Cyprus and employing Cypriots. But it's up to us, it's up to the people of Cyprus to take advantage of this opportunity. You can be presented with an opportunity, but you have to then grasp that opportunity. And those of us like me, of Cypriot origin, who live in the UK, I know many people like me who are considering relocating to Cyprus because the opportunities are there and they will be less obvious in the UK. And, you know, if you've got a laptop, you can work anywhere in the world. And I'd rather work from a beach in Cyprus than from a cold, dark, rainy office in London. I think that says it all, really. There are opportunities. Let's take advantage of them.
Thank you so much, Nick. Okay, now moving to the real estate, Panicos, would you like to wrap up and say your key message for the audience?
Okay. Yeah, of course. I'll keep it very short. Nick more or less covered me on everything. All I'm going to say is that despite Brexit, the Cyprus and UK relationship will remain very strong. Whether that is on education, business, or investments, the links between these two countries go way, way back, and they will not be affected significantly by a formality whether the UK is in the union or not. So that's all from me.
Okay, thank you so much, Panicos. And now, Mr. Karoullas, would you like to give us your key message for the audience? And
what I can say is that now is the opportunity to invest in Cyprus. It's actually the right time as the prices they have been facing a correction. There is a lot of incentives from the developers, so now is the right time to invest until the next augmentation of the Cyprus economy in the real estate market, which I believe is going to be in the next couple of years, maybe 2022, 2023, the market will be much better.
Okay, thank you so much, Nicolas. And now I will ask our founder, Mr. Savvas Kyriakides, if he would like to give a message or give us some tips. I know you are planning to do some more webinars regularly for the organization. So if you like to give us your key message for the audience and future webinars, maybe.
Thank you, Ksenia. Thank you all of, I want to thank all of you, the speakers and the attendees for being here with us today. We saw that there is a need of networking between the two countries. We see that a lot of British and British Cypriots want to relocate in Cyprus, are thinking at least to relocate. But there is also too much interest about how London and the UK will respond after Brexit. So let's keep together and keep in touch. And that's why we are organizing more webinars in the near future. We'll have one in 5 weeks' time, and all the information will be published in our newspaper next week, and also marketing emails and through the social media. Thank you once again, and I hope everybody enjoyed this webinar.
Okay, thank you so much, Savvas, as well. Okay, I think it's time to wrap up our presentation today. It's been a pleasure having you all here today. I'm sure all the attendees enjoyed it as well. And so from all of us here this afternoon, thank you very much. Enjoy your evening, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you also to our panelists who gave us their views and opinions on their topic. And yeah, thank you. Enjoy the evening, and good evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.